My current project is a show called I Lost It in Kiev, which is just a group of stories that talk about my time overseas and coming back and the conflict of being away. I think for expats, New Zealand is always home. And I come back here and I smell it and I feel it and I touch it and I'm like, oh, why do I live in Canada? Because I belong here. And yet I'm the child of European parents, so I belong in Europe and I belong in North America because I've been there 30 years. So it's that sort of the wandering Jew, you know, always, should I be here, should I be there? I've also got a new play that I'm developing called My German Roots Are Showing. And that's the story of the fictional mother and daughter, based on some true elements, because a lot of my shows are, of going to Germany with my mother. A Jewish comedian in Germany, what could possibly go wrong? The way my early life was shaped, I think, comes from my family. My grandmother sang opera in German, which was so embarrassing. And my father was a natural entertainer, Sol, my father Shia, and my mother was an organizer in the community, the Jewish community, of concerts and programs all the time. She used to sing, you know, things like Synagogue Guild, we are all Jewish bums with big fat bums. I mean, I don't know, she had, there's no rabbi like our rabbi like no rabbi I know. And my favorite, matzah balls, how I'm longing to eat you, small and white, round and bright, what a treat for a Hebrew. The times in the 60s led me into folk music, into rock music, pop music, and so I sort of followed in my mum's footsteps, writing songs, and then because of the political times, I got into the feminist movement, got into that scene, rock and roll. I was in a rock and roll band. I was in Debbie and the Dum Dums in New Zealand, and all of the sort of one step following the other, really, a natural graduation to realizing I needed to study in America. And so I went there and I studied with some really great teachers. It was a very formative time to be studying with Stella Adler. Irony is my mother's maiden name is Adler, so I was very drawn to her. And she had studied with Stanislavski, the greatest acting teacher ever, really, in Russia. And so there, you know, there was a lineage and a connection, and she talked about modern American theatre, so I studied Tennessee Williams, Eugene O'Neill, Sean O'Casey, which was not modern, Ibsen. I studied Arthur Miller, all kinds of periods of Chekhov. We studied Chekhov. And also I was at the HB studio, and Uta Hagen was a teacher there. And so I used to go and slip into her classes as often as I possibly could and watch her completely decimate young actors. But, you know, you're watching her do that, and at the same time studying with another teacher, I was able to sort of put together how you're supposed to act and how you're supposed to be. And I tried to get lots of work, and I couldn't get anything. So I started to develop my own work. The economic necessity at the time was, you know, if you tried to get a theatre company up, it was just so hard. So being solo was a way to go. And that's how it really all started, with that musical background and the political theatre. Taking a real headline and making it entertainment is social content, political content, connects to the people, and they're being entertained and laughing while they're actually hearing something's going on. So that was what the lineage was, and I took that on into one-woman shows. By the time I got to 1990, my father invited me to go to Poland with him, to the place where the mass murder took place of his parents, his uncles, aunts, cousins, 72 members of his family, and 1,200 Jews from the town. So by then I had looked at, that's a very nice way of saying I'd been in therapy. I had to deal with the fact that I was a child of survivor, and I did that in my 20s. And I realized that I had my own story that was separate from my father's, so I was actually now able to tell his story through my eyes. And that's what Punch Me in the Stomach was. It was a 36-character one-woman show, and it proved to be my calling card in the world, and I performed it for 12 years around the world. the influences in my life of people like Lucille Ball, Mel Brooks, Carol Burnett, Danny Kaye, you know, there's a sort of there's a generosity of spirit in all those performers. That's always been attractive to me. So I think it comes from some part of my soul. Kiwis and humour, great. I think Kiwis really love a laugh. Really love a laugh. Who doesn't like a giggle? But Jewish humour in New Zealand even goes well. I mean, a joke is a joke. People like a joke. And I think that being so isolated here in New Zealand physically from the rest of the world, a lot of New Zealanders have travelled abroad, so they understand what a New York Jewish accent is. When I pull out my cousin, or so I should say my Aunt Vippy, I don't know if you've seen her, Karen, but Vippy Feldman is quite prominent in all of my shows. She says, Debbie, why go back to New Zealand? It's a cultural desert. Stay here on Long Island. Have you been to a garage sale? Have you tried therapy? What you need is culture, young lady, or you'll wither up and die. Look at Gandhi. People recognize her. That's the universality of those characters. The arc of the story arc is laughter is the best medicine, or humour is a tool for survival, or I lost it but I had it all along. I think people everywhere understand that. And yes, in New Zealand, there's certainly not enough Jews to saturate the society. So yes, people know much more about Māoritanga and, you know, the Samoan Polynesian cultures, about England. A lot of people go and live, you know, on their OE that way towards, you know, the UK. However, people watch television. They know, you know, Jewish characters appear on American television all the time. And I think with the internet, with the you know, onset and advent of the internet, there's a lot more opportunity to teach people about what Jewish life is, because I am a split person. There's no question about that. I'm an outsider, so I'm split in so many ways. I'm a New Zealander and I'm a Jew. I'm a New Zealander and I'm a North American. I'm a New Zealander and I'm a European. I'm an artist and I'm a businesswoman. I'm a writer and I'm a performer. I'm a character artist and I'm a writer. There's all of these splits that take place in my life, but one of the big ones is I'm straddled between North America and here, and as much as I've lived there for over 30 years, and as much as I've been in Europe so often, I always come home. There's an adjustment where I go, whoa, this place is isolated. And then every time I come back, there's more of like, home. And that's a word that one doesn't take for granted.